Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome back. We'll re-adjourn the meeting. 11:15 roundabout. Sorry, we're a little bit late. But we'll move on to our report 7.8, Ruramahanga Roads and Corridor Access Report.
Thank you.
Johannes?
I'll present it behalf of Graham. So I'll take the report as read and I will highlight two matters. One, we are very excited that we're coming to the end of the North Island weather events repairs. So the last work is programmed to be completed in June. Those events, if you can recall, started in 2022, and we had 4 qualifying events ending up with Cyclone Gabriel, significant amount of damage to our network that's finally coming to an end by the end of this month. So we'll do a follow-up report on just focusing on all the works that's been done in terms of the emergency works as well. And then I would just like to highlight the commentary on the bridge inspections and the budgets. The bridges are not unique in that that's the same scenario with all our assets, that we know that there's work that needs to be done, and we prioritize work according to our approved budgets. So we annually do our bridge inspections, which highlights faults and provide a condition rating, and then we systematically work through those things. What we have highlighted is that probably in the next asset management plan or LTP, bridges will probably have a higher focus than it has been in the past. With that, I'll take questions.
Thanks, Johannes. Questions? I appreciate your comments this morning after our Graham's presentation in public forum. I just had a question on page 102, where you've actually mentioned the bridges, and it's mentioned WSP have conducted 121 structural inspections, but if you tally up all the underneath it, that's considerably more than 121. So
there's 2 types of, so we are required under the NZTA's bridge inspection policy to carry out a general inspection every 2 years and a principal inspection every 6 years on every asset. So it takes us about 3 years to complete the cycle of all our assets. So we're not inspecting. There's the bridge and the structural bridge inspections. We don't do that every year on every asset. Just the observation that happens, the casual inspections, if I can say.
I just thought that the numbers that were urgent, high, or medium were relative to the 121. That's what I was trying to work out.
I think the inspections result in medium, high, or urgent. So some of them would be low. So, but we can look into those numbers and just provide feedback.
Yeah, I was just trying to see how they related to the 121, but there's considerably more.
So sorry, now I understand your question. If an asset is inspected and it has a medium risk, it's unlikely that risk will be resolved, because we'll be focusing on the urgent one, so it will remain. Okay. The condition and risk will remain at that medium level.
Questions?
Which is the bridge in CDC?
I could refer you to page 103.
Yeah, so there's urgent culvert, is that what we're talking about?
So as per the working category definition, a culvert of that dimension is considered a bridge structure, or it's in the same category.
And while I'm asking about things that are interesting to me, the Atafokatu Bridge, they had an abseiling team there within the last month or so. Do you know anything about anything they might have found?
So if I recall correctly, they were there doing maintenance, not inspection. I think the inspection's already been completed. Okay. So we haven't done the inspections for this year yet. So that would have been a maintenance activity.
Okay.
The details of what they were doing, I don't know that, but yeah.
Just a worry about that bridge.
See on page 103, there's a very nice photo of the culvert. So you identify how it's not like a culvert.
No.
I think one of the thoughts I've had is that people don't really know what has been done. There's a lot of good work going on, and particularly post Hale, post Gabriel. And there's a lot of work that's done behind the scenes that never gets seen when you're lodging applications for extra funding to meet these commitments. And the fact that, this is a contract that's been run across 2 councils, and we're going to get to paper later on, which actually will make the operation a lot smoother. It's consistent when we get into the financial side. But I'm wondering sometimes that if whether or not some of the concerns that the community has might well be addressed if we put a bit more comms attention on the roading team. Just to highlight the good work that has been done.
So definitely, I think exposure will always, to highlight the good things that we do will always be beneficial. I can't speak to the comms team's workload and just the priorities at the moment. What we have done one of the things that we've tried to improve in how we're reporting is to report on the things like the number of potholes, the kilometers we're grading, those kind of things. And I think if I look at, we're always thinking network wide, whole asset database wide view. And I'm not saying that some comments made from the public is unwarranted, but if I think about the number of assets that we maintain, the number of users that uses our services versus the number of complaints that we get or things that gets highlighted, I would say overall it looks like the community sees what we're doing and is grateful. But I think there's an opportunity to work with the comms team and see if there's a way of celebrating these successes more.
Yeah. I'll leave it to you, but I mean, that's, and as you quite rightly point out, it comes down to priorities in terms of comms work and effort and their workload. But I just think there's a bit of unsung heroism in some of the things that are happening and have happened. And sometimes you do have to blow your trumpet so that people actually know. We are all guilty of focusing on the roads we tend to traverse on our own day-to-day activities. Some have a wider loop, and occasionally when we travel outside of our own little patch and head out to Flat Point to see someone, we get a different picture. But it's, and I think sometimes those things get lost on people. So I just simply ask the question, is there something more we can do to educate people around the good work that is happening with the roading team? But at the same time, not diminishing some of the concerns that some people put up. I wish they put them up on a service request. Be better. Just a general question around road safety and some of the challenges you have, Johannes. There are a number of places on our roading network where trees and foliage which are on private property could be argued are causing a safety issue. And I'll point to one right now. If you pull out at Dalefield Road on State Highway 2 and you're at that intersection or approaching that intersection, there's a lot of foliage on the right-hand side that obscures vision. There are a couple of other places I could mention. I won't because I drive them frequently. But what are your challenges when it comes to addressing issues like that?
So I'll start with our process that we follow when either it's brought to our attention by the public or identified by the team that there is vegetation obscuring the vision or causing a problem, then we would either, if it's on our side of the fence, we would put it into our forward works program for maintenance. We're same budgetary constraint, those kind of things prioritized. If it's on the property owner's side of the fence, we issue them a cutback notice under the combined bylaw, where they need to take action to cut it back. If they fail to do that, we do have the ability to do it and charge them. One of the challenges for some property owners is sometimes the cost of doing that is quite extreme, and you kind of understand that to get an arborist in, like, it's a 20,000 bill for somebody that's already under pressure. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. But we have seen good responses where we have asked property owners to cut back vegetation. So it's an ongoing activity that we're managing. And we'll get the team to have a look at that. That one on Dalefield Road, that's been cut back probably last year.
Yeah.
But that's always going to be a challenging.
And I guess it's a call you have to make, because there are specific locations where trees have grown up in that location over the last 50, 60 years. But the traffic now is a lot heavier. The safety issues are arguably higher today than they were 15, 20 years ago. But then there's the cost factor. I'm just trying to understand. For me, it's just understanding what you can do, what you can't do, what your constraints are, and where there might be some room for adjustment if it can improve. Because people only know how much safer it will be when the trees are down.
Yep.
And they can actually see. And that is one I think of, because it is State Highway 2, but there are a number of others which have just been allowed to go on that way over the last 40, 50 years. And
the team is definitely taking a proactive approach to vegetation in the corridor, even removing small trees and saplings, and they are active on that. I think from the resident or the community largely there's a willingness to respond. I think sometimes there's a challenge in financial ability to respond. But then when that happens, we'll address that as and when required.
Yeah. Thank you.
His Worship. Hannes, I'd just like to just concur with what His Worship mentioned earlier on, that when a report like this comes out, I mean, it's a very minute amount of our community that we actually read it to get any kind of understanding of what work the roading team's completing, or projects team, or anything really. So making use of our communications team, if they do have the opportunity or the time to just put a little basic thing together based on this report, I think is advantageous for us to tell that story. So, but that's on that workload. Yeah. Any further comments?
If I can just add, Sarah has sent me a message and they will further to the commentary on publishing some of this results. So she's looking to align some of it with the publishing of the survey results, and then she has started with some other teams, so probably look at the roading team as well. So they're definitely onto it.
Great to put that alongside our the ticketing, the service requests and so forth. Now we're on top of it, and
So this is a question for Johannes. On page 103, Bridge 2, Greys Bush Bridge Park Road. Which one's that?
So a lot of these names of the assets are historic names and how it's been recorded in the asset database. What I actually also read that, and I haven't checked the database exactly of the pinpoint, but it's definitely on Park Road.
Yeah.
So it would be similar to Oruri Settlement Road, that it's a box culvert type bridge.
I just haven't heard it called that.
Yeah, there is one, and I know it's covered in the report back from the Rural Advisory Group, but we're talking roading, we're talking safety, talking Fensham Reserve. Can you just give us a overview of what your thoughts are around what has now been identified by many as a rising safety issue with that car parking area, corner of Carterton and
Haringa.
Yeah.
So thank you, Your Worship. So at the Rural Advisory Group meeting, Gary Daish identified or highlighted the risk of people that's going to Fensham Reserve parking on the corner or around that bend of Cobham Road and Haringa Road, and then crossing the road, and then vehicles coming around that corner at a high speed. We've taken an action away to go and investigate. From a roading point of view, in dealing with risk management, the first option is always, can we remove the risk completely? In this case, that is actually a very realistic option because there's another entrance to Fensham Reserve. So the instruction to the corridor access team is to reach out to Fensham. So they've already started that conversation, but to see, can we close that access so that they can come in from the other side? Alternatively, they need to provide additional other parking that's just further up Cobham Road but to the left, so that the pedestrians don't have to cross the road. Together with that, we are also the speed management plan has been completed, but we're also would be encouraging that risk be made known through the consultation process for the speed management plan, so that we can reduce the speed around that corner as well. But definitely the first step will be the safest approach would be to close that access.
Thank you. Yeah. I guess it's a mark of success on part of Fensham Reserve that there's so many people going there now. But the real problem is children running out of that and just sprinting ahead across their roads, and I've seen it.
Yes.
And that's a problem. Cars come around. So
thank you. No further discussion. We have one recommendation that we receive the report. Thank you, Rupert. Thank you, Councillor Bowring. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. 7.9, changes to the delegation manual. Derek?
Report covers just really administrative changes to our delegations, updating ahead of particularly new council. So the new council will also receive an update and adopt the delegation comes in. The only really material change is around the delegations tier 3 managers in terms of a dollar value change. So we've proposed to move them from $1,000 limit to $5,000, which saves particularly the senior managers having to sign off a number of renewal purchase orders, etc., that can be capably managed by our tier 3 managers. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Jerry? Oh, and me personally, I think the changes that have been suggested are very good. Very supportive.
I'd say most of them are really just updating job titles and roles, so not too many substantive changes.
So what I take in the paper, Mr. Chair, is that simply it's a more pragmatic approach in terms of delegated authority. $1,000 these days is pretty silly, actually, in my view. And then going further into they reflect organisational changes and aligning everything up with the organisational review. So it's all gone through every one of them. They look perfectly sensible to me. So thank you for the work and very timely paper.
Nice to get it tidy before the new council.
Yeah.
When was it done last? Really? It wasn't 2000, was it?
No, that was the original adoption, around late 23, I want to say.
Okay.
23, yeah. So there's particular titles changed. That's timely to come.
Just one question for Jerry. In the remove the following positions, mechanic, it hasn't been added as a following position. Are we no longer having a mechanic?
Has it been reinstated as having a delegation? It's really just the authority to sign, approve.
Oh, okay.
So just they will send their approval through to the team leader or manager.
Yeah. So we still got that position.
Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't really use the delegated authority.
Yeah.
Our new purchase order system also requires 2 approvals. In the past, our paper ones, you could just sign off one delegation. Now we require 2. So
Good.
We have 2 recommendations. And you have to move both. Absolutely. That is number 1, we received the report, and 2, approves the change to the delegations manual as outlined in attachment 1. Moved his worship. I'm happy to second that. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thank you. And review of emergency management plans, 7.10.
So just so while they're not policies that need to be formally adopted at this level by the committee, it's more to give you assurance, firstly, that we have our emergency plans in place. We have been talking, particularly through risk and assurance, around updating our BCP in a meticulous, splitting out those parts that are actually crisis response rather than business continuity. So making the distinction between how we respond to an event. Previously, we've had that contained in the BCP itself, which so as we've had other curveballs thrown, particularly around cyber security and things like that aren't particularly natural disasters, we've widened the scope of our BCP to make sure that we cover off those eventualities. I would just say they are like a policy perhaps for timely renewal or review. They are living documents, so they will be updated and adjusted as we practice, as we go through, as we use them. That's why this plans rather than a formal policy as such.
Thanks, Jerry. Once again, appreciate the work that's gone into these.
Something good because our BCP had been updated for quite some time, so it's good to see it has been. It's reflective of current environments.
Any questions for Jerry?
No, I'm sorry. Applaud. You know, look at the transformation in terms of civil defence for Carterton and our emergency management planning. It's been quite spectacular. I mean, we've probably been convenient that we've had a couple of big events in this triennium, but the changes throughout I mean, across the wider upper, but specifically here in Carterton, have been astonishing. I guess my only concern is that given all these good improvements that are based on learned experiences from real events, just a little nervous about what the government might be proposing and its future legislation and how that will impact on us. What you've done here, Jerry, you and the team, Johannes Solitaire, I mean, you've upped the game here. You really have. It's thorough, it's considerably more professional than I've ever seen before. And future-proofing and thinking forward with these updated policies. It's just good work. It's only going to put us in good stead for what we know will be another event in the next triennium. And I just hate to see some of that undermined. But I won't know until we won't know until we see what the government's actually proposing in this space. So whether it's here at Carterton with the incident management team or whether we're talking the EOC at that level, I guess just a little bit nervous.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Take that on board. It is an area we've been working hard, and particularly with the start of the Wairarapa Emergency Office as well. I would say that I've highlighted in my report. We've written it down. We need to test it internally, and and actually implement it. So it is BAU for our team. They know what to do. It's all great to write a plan and a report, but our next piece of work, then I will feel confident, having tested it through our teams as well. So that's our next step, is to educate and implement and ensure we do those test exercises internally.
As a military man, when I see first line equipment supply requirements and that sort of terminology there, I get confidence because that's precisely what we looked at. And it's, and it's detailed department by department.
This is just me being picky again. Under insurances, is that intended to be an exclusive list? In other words, if something's not on the list, you can't do it? Because you haven't got no property insurance in there.
So we're about Shane.
Oh, sorry. This is 3.5 insurance. Yeah, business interruption, public liability, contents insurance, and PI insurance. But
Page 144.
Ensuring we have the right place.
yeah, I mean, I presume that you can insure things that aren't on the list, like the event centre.
Yeah, so this is really just around that BCP insurance. So the things to carry on there will be the individual, if the event centre falls down, or the space of this was more related to business continuity.
It's not asset insurance.
Yeah.
Well, I would have contents insurance, but anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not assets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can certainly add that in. We can certainly add an asset insurance or.
Look, I don't think it matters because clearly you can insure things that aren't on the list as long as you insure the things that aren't. So.
And good, the detail around records management and having that backup capability. We've had one of those incidents in this council once before. Surprising what people say was lost in the fire.
Lots of councils have had fires, yeah.
Isn't that a standing joke with all councils?
Very good. Further discussion?
We have two recommendations. Again, I'm happy to take them both together. One that we received the report. Two, that we endorse the business continuity plan and crisis management plan. And that is moved by Councillor Cherry Campbell and seconded by Councillor Della. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And move on to update on planning resource consents, and Johannes is going to speak to that, but Solitaire is online if we have any issues.
And so, thank you, Chair. So I'm going to table the report on behalf of Solitaire. That's very committed. She's not feeling too good today, but she is there if there's any curly ones. But I'll take the report as read and hope there's no questions.
Has to be a couple.
If there's any questions, like we can endeavour to come back to the committee. If there's any urgent ones.
Questions, anybody?
Pretty straightforward.
We have one recommendation. It's that we accept the report. I'm happy to move. Yeah. Thank you, wish. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you for that. And our final report for the day is 7.12 advisory group dates. Taking care of that for you.
Yes, I am. So thank you, Chair. The intention of this report is just to give the committee update on the advisory groups. It's also a way of making those minutes public. So just so that the committee and the public can also see what the rural is, or all the advisory groups are getting up to.
Thank you, Hannes. I just thought, do you have a question?
People on policy.
And that was cancelled or postponed.
We should have
illness. There was a number of ill people and the agenda was quite
Yeah.
light, so
So is this the appropriate place to raise a question around policy? Should we not be looking at potentially an urban and a rural advisory group? And that way we could pick up wheels and walking and people and places as part of urban. It just seemed logical. If we don't have enough on agenda to have a meeting, then potentially we could say an urban advisory group could be more holistic and
That's what we've discussed previously.
yeah. Is there room for that discussion again or
leading to it? Councillor Newman was one who raised that topic.
Through you, I think it's a good idea. My only concern is some of that walking and wheel stuff isn't necessarily urban. You know, some of the trails are out of town. Like Five Towns Trail, and like, so as long as that still slots in correctly, I think it would make total sense to combine them, because it does feel like sometimes we have a meeting for the sake of having a meeting.
recommendations? Do we need,
Yeah,
is there room to make a
I think
recommendation?
the whole advisory group makeup and terms of reference probably need to be addressed, which is what we did discuss when we had our economic development workshop. And I think that's already a work in progress, isn't it, from that workshop?
Yeah.
Looking to Glenda.
So we're looking at bringing it back to September.
And where we have an overlap with, for Councillor Newman's point, where we have an overlap between urban and rural, then the two could just talk to each other.
Well, that's what the paper is. That's
Yeah.
coming back
Yeah.
in September, which is what we discussed in the workshop.
So workshop, not necessarily being viewed live by the public. People are unaware of that, but they'll pick it up then. They may or may not. So raising it here, that's what the point is, raising it here so the public can see that we are thinking more.
I mean, also probably placemaking is a bit of a,
That's
That was
what
discussed
take
as well.
placemaking
urban.
and create urban.
Yeah. And I mean, but what I'm saying is placemaking could also be partly rural as well.
It's
Sure,
about
it's
it's
a little
refreshing all the advisory groups
Yeah.
to make them more fit for purpose in the current environment.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Any further discussion? We have one recommendation, and that's that we receive.
George, just one question. On the Henry Bridge design, why does council have to sign that off? What are we signing off? What would we be signing off? It's not our project.
It's not so much signing off, it's just bringing it back to you, noting that we've completed the project.
Oh, right.
And just giving you those next steps.
So coming back to council for note.
It's given an update that the scope that we had budget for has been completed.
Albert, yeah,
Yes.
gotcha.
Can I just ask about the speed review we were up to, seeing how it's cropped up in the.
We are working with Farms team. We're aiming hopefully to go live next week. That's the plan. The plan is complete. We're now just making it presentable to the community.
Awesome. I shall move for the recommendation. And that's that we received the draft meeting notes from the Walking Wheels and Rural Advisory Groups. Thank you, Councillor Della, and seconded by Councillor Jerry Campbell. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. And that moves us to the end of the meeting. And we have our Karakia Whakamutanga.
Here's the unity Pakatatai, here is unity Pakatai.
Hold
Good everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Excellent
Thank you,
reports.
Councillor Newman.
Excellent reports.
Thank you, guys.
Happy
See ya.
birthday, Henry.
Oh.
I'll pass it on to him.
I think
Excellent.
It's